Buon pomeriggio a tutti e benvenuti in GECO, The Sustainability Virtual Expo. Sono veramente lieta di introdurvi all'International Roundtable Time for Sustainability Beyond the Travel Crisis. But now is the moment to change things up and continue in English. I have the pleasure of welcoming today to our panel international guests representing European business travel associations and an English-speaking audience. So welcome to all of you, and many thanks for having joined us. I'm Daniela Verdin. I'm travel manager of ASCOL Group and the international ambassador of AITMM, the Italian Association of Travel and Mobility Managers. Just a few words to introduce you our association. Well, good afternoon. First of all, hello to our guests. Albena Taseva from Denmark, Patrick Dimmer from Germany, and Dominic Short from Switzerland. Thank you to all of you for having joined us. I know you are very busy, they are very busy days, and so I really appreciate you dedicated us time to talk with the European associations about the sustainability in business travel. And okay, let's go on with a few words about our association, just to introduce who we are and our path. AITMM represents the professional role of the travel and mobility managers and supports the growth, the enhancement and the recognition of this important profession. As a representative of AITMM, we feel very important being here today at the Sustainability Virtual Expo to underline with our presence the need of supporting and implementing the sustainability in business travel. We need to travel again. We need to visit our customers and physically see, touch and experience the products. Shake hands, build contacts, and maintain human relationships. And we feel that the travel manager is the one who can promote the cultural change inside our companies in the moment we restart traveling again. And for sure, we are not alone in this path, because today we are going to share and to listen from European experts the experiences in their countries and in their associations about, first of all, the opportunities beyond the crisis, how to create awareness and education in sustainable choices and solutions implemented to achieve sustainable goals, and how to measure the results. For those who meet us for the first time, would like to share with the audience our history and our path. So AITMM was born on September 25th in 2018 during our first national convention in Milan. It's the first association in Italy entirely dedicated to the professional role of the travel and mobility manager. In 2020, AITMM is recognized by the Ministry of Economic Development as a registered association, qualified to release the professional qualification to the members who follow a dedicated professional training. And in 2022, AITMM is one of the founding members of Business Travel for Europe, the European network composed by 13 associations from countries across Europe to give business travel a stronger voice. We are very proud of being part of this project and bringing our contribute and honored having here today among our guests the chair and the board director of the newborn European network. Still just 2 words about us. We are based on a team model approach, and we adopted a model in which every member is an active part of the association. And the members, they contribute by reporting themes and sharing experiences useful for the growth of this role. The AITMM ambassadors are volunteers who develop relationships in their regional area with the aim of creating a network among travel and mobility managers, providing information and expertise about this sector through meetings, webinars, and knowledge exchange. And for those who are interested in following our activities or joining us, you can see here our contacts. We invite travel mobility managers to get in touch with us through the website or LinkedIn or email address. And we'll be very happy to welcome all of you in our association. But now I'm very pleased to introduce our guests, our special guests, starting from Patrick Dimmer. And Patrick is active as independent consultant, board member, and business angel and investor in travel and payments startups, such as H2H in France, Ecomio in Germany, and the Apartment Network in UK and Germany. He is a member of the board at the CDS Group. He is also active as senior advisor at Arto de Little Management Consulting and member of the advisory board of Angso Management Consulting. Patrick was CEO at Lufthansa AirPlus, where he headed their global expansion strategy and developed AirPlus into one of the leading commercial card issuers. Earlier, he led Visa Germany and was Senior Vice President Consumer Marketing at Commerzbank. In his career, he worked in the USA, UK, and Germany, several times in start scale-ups. He holds a Master of Economics degree of Hamburg University. 2017, Patrick was named one of the 25th most influential by Business Travel News. Currently, Patrick volunteers for VDR, the German Business Travel Association. He leads their task force Restart Business Travel. And I'm very happy to add that Patrick is newly elected chair of BT for Europe, the European Network of Business Travel Associations. Now I would like to introduce Albena Taseva from Denmark. Albena is a procurement specialist, business travel expert, and a strong advocate for designing and implementing sustainable solutions for the modern business traveler, including processes, policies, and tech systems. Albena is a board member of the Danish Business Travel Association. She's also part of GSTC Business Travel Working Group, which aims to enable GSTC to address the specialized needs and opportunities in the corporate travel market, while ensuring the relevance of GSTC sustainability criteria. Further to that, Albena has been a business development volunteer at TripDoodler, Danish travel tech startup, whose platform allows conscious travelers to find verified sustainable travel options. Albena is a holder of Danish Business Travel Association Recognition Award 2019. So thank you, Albena, for being here with us. And our guest, Dominic Short from Switzerland. After 30 years in business travel management, meetings and events and marketing, Dominic has his own company. In the past, he has supported many companies with their business travel, meeting and events, and marketing communications needs. His projects focus on delivering analysis of processes and optimization of these. He implements global travel management solutions, payment solutions, technology to support the digital transformation of his clients. He also supports their change management process with bespoke communications packages. Regularly, he organizes meetings, events, and conferences for corporates and associations. He is a keynote speaker, moderator, and a masterclass teacher. He's a partner at TMC Group in Germany and the president of the Swiss Association of Travel Management. And proud also to introduce Dominic as the newly elected board member at European Network of Business Travel Associations, BT for Europe. Well, finally, we can start our conversation with our guests and sharing their experiences and knowledge and with our audience. I would like to start with Patrick and start to the conversation with him. I would like to ask you, Patrick, do you think we'll return to the pre-corona business travel crisis volumes and behaviors, or do we have the chance to turn the crisis into the opportunity of making now the difference and restart with a change, building more productive travels, safer and more sustainable for people and companies? And also, I would like to ask you, which are the priorities in this process of restart business travel, based on your experience with the German Association and also as chair of the new board and network of European Business Travel Association? We are ready to listen to you.
Thank you very much, Daniela. I am very proud to be invited to this panel. Thank you very much for your kind words. And I feel honored to be able to speak to the audience in Italy about the questions you have just raised. Now I need to understand what I need to do to have the first chart.
Okay.
Here we go. I am at the moment at the airport in Berlin on my way home from a conference of 500 travel executives from around Europe. And I must say, to your question, will travel come back? Yes, travel will come back, because it is so much better to meet in person than just to meet on the screen. It will take a while, though. Let me come to your first question. What is it that we need to do to have travel come back? And in Germany, the Business Travel Association has formed a task force of its members to understand what we need from an environment, from politicians, from governments, to impose rules or to lift rules to allow travel to come back. And you can see that we developed a white paper on the comeback of business travel. Of course, the industry understands that health is the #1 priority. And yes, we want safe travels, healthy travel for our travelers when we send them on the road. So we are completely in line what politicians want, a healthy environment for our travelers. But it needs to be simple. It needs to be simple to understand what vaccination you need, what the recovery rules are. We need the same rules in the countries as we need them internationally. And I'm saying this coming from a country, Germany, where every town has its own rules. It's terrible for business travel. So we need to bang the door in Brussels and in Rome and in Berlin and in Bern and wherever, to understand that the politicians need to understand we need a coherent regime to beat COVID-19. We also need improved communication. Today, it's quite a task to make yourself knowledgeable about the rules, in the various destinations you want to go. And we need international travel for business travelers without quarantine. And let's say it openly, we also need open countries. China is still closed. Japan has just opened the door. And we need to travel, to be able to travel to China as an important business partner we have from Europe, all European countries. China is a very important business partner. So this is our agenda, which we have developed with travel managers and which we have used to lobby in Berlin and in Brussels for the restart of business travel. Let me come to your second question, which is, will it come back and when will it come back? That's, of course, a question where nobody knows the answer. But let me just explain to you that the data available says, if you take 2019, which was a boom year, but if you take that as a benchmark, the first year, we had 39% globally of business travel compared to 2019. Last year, the data is not published yet, but last year, was better than 2020. And there are indications that it was around 50% of 2019. If you extrapolate this into the future, it will take many years until the travel volumes will come back to the 2019 levels. And to some degree, we also have to stop to look at 2019 as the holy grail of where we want to be back, because it will take time and nobody knows it. It will. Zoom, Teams, Skype, we are on a virtual conference right now. All of these tools will disintermediate some of the travel. And so it will take time. But I'm sure, also given the personal experience I just had from the conference in Berlin, I'm sure it will come back. So last but not least, let me come to your last question about the European development. I am very proud that last week, 13 associations from across Europe met in Brussels to form a new association, a new joint association for business travel in Europe. So Italy is there, a very strong supporter of this development. Spain, Austria, Switzerland, France, the two associations in the Netherlands, Belgium, Germany, and the 4 associations from Scandinavia, Denmark, a very strong supporter in this development, Finland, Sweden, Norway. So 13 for the European associations for the first time formed an association in Brussels to bring business travel, or to give business travel a stronger voice with politicians. Because in many situations, politicians impose rules and they simply forget to think about what it means for business travel. And we need to change this. We need to be able to voice the demand of our industry when laws are being made in the legislation process in the European Union, but also in Bern, also in Oslo, also in London. I think this is a very important approach. Now, this baby association, which is now 1 week old, will start to learn to live and to learn to walk and to learn to cry and to learn to work. But at the moment, we are still at a very early stage. However, we have decided on our priorities, and you see them on the chart here. Our first priority is to help legislation for the recovery from the pandemic. We are hopefully at the end of the COVID-19 pandemic in Europe, but nobody knows this exactly. And should this come back in fall or winter next year, we need to be prepared with our message. Second, sustainability. Sustainability has become the #1 priority outside of this emergency, COVID-19. Many corporate travel managers now has it as their #1 task to make sure that business travel is going to be sustainable going forward. We know that when we fly and then we take the train, when we take the car, when we stay in a hotel, when we go to a conference, we always have an option to be more sustainable to our environment. And that is something we need to push. And that's something many travel managers have very close to their personal hearts, but also their companies are increasingly so behind this objective. So for us, this is also very important, as well as getting bureaucracy and paperwork out of the system. So to become more digital in international travel and in national travel is also one of our 3 objectives. To get all of this done, what we need is, of course, also facts and figures around business travel in Europe, and they are not known. We know that there are millions of Europeans on business travel every year, but we don't know exactly how many. We don't know exactly how much volume the industry spends on business travel. We do not know how much jobs are dependent on business travel in Europe. And we do not know how much impact we have on the gross national product in Europe. And that is also a piece of research which we set ourselves to conduct, to be able to have a meaningful conversation with policymakers across Europe. So Daniela, I hope this answers your questions on what will go on the European level.
Yes, thank you so much, Patrick. Yes, it answers my question. It also tells me how much we have to work, but we started a new history, and the cooperation is great, and we are really very proud of being part of this project and to work and to grow together. Thank you very much also for the great job you did in the last months, because the newborn associations come after months of great work and job. Thank you.
It was great. It was a great teamwork. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. So I turn now the questions to Albena, and Albena, I proceed. I've gone with you, and you are board member of the Danish Business Travel Association and an expert in designing and implementing sustainable solutions for the modern business traveler. We are really very interested in listening your experience about the sustainable travel programs in the Nordics, and how the transformation process has been designed and implemented, and which was or will be the role of the travel manager in this path. And also it would be very inspiring for us listening from you about if you have any success story from your work with sustainable travel. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to both thank Gecko Expo, the Italian Association for Travel Mobility Managers, and especially to you, Daniela, for arranging this roundtable, and also for inviting me to share thoughts and experiences with sustainable business travel. For the next couple of minutes, to answer your questions, I will be touching upon topics like the evolution of business travel program, share some tips and tricks on how to start incorporating sustainability initiatives to your corporate travel program, and what is your role as travel manager in this process? Last but absolutely not least, I'll share a couple of first-hand success stories based on my direct work as travel buyer on sustainable travel. And here I would just like to make a quick disclaimer that this presentation reflects solely my own thoughts, experiences, and consideration about the topic, and by no means should be aimed or interpreted to be exhaustive. So I really encourage all our listeners to maintain an open mind and let themselves be inspired. So without further ado, let's get started. So business travel has been and is on a transformational journey, and this has only been intensified by the pandemic. In the pre-COVID years, it was quite common for many organizations to see travel as a cost, with key focus areas among equally distributed between cost reduction, duty of care, and policy compliance. Sustainability slowly became part of the equation, especially in some regions, as it is in the Nordics, for example. However, it was often overshadowed by cost savings targets. Travel policies were also built to support that vision of travel as a cost, with advanced bookings, restricted airfares, price caps, the era of economy when it comes to cabin class, and the TMC fee streamlining as some examples. KPIs were also heavily focused on measuring the financial performance of the program. So when it comes to sustainability, if you go to the previous slide, please. Yes, thank you. When it came to sustainability, as I said, it was still limited. The enforcement in the policies has also been limited. A lot has been revolved around encouragement, guidelines, recommendations, but it was also a period where KPIs to measure sustainable initiatives and the effects and impacts of those were also quite limited. And companies were very limited in terms of their reporting, and practically only focusing and referring to the standard TMC CO2 report that could be provided. Now, we all know what happened March 2020. COVID came, hit Europe hard, but also the whole world. Travel stopped pretty much from day to day, and it impacted travel quite a lot. And while it has been really very difficult time for the whole industry, it has also been a great, immense opportunity for corporations and travel managers alike to rethink absolutely all aspects of their travel programs. And at the same time, to start preparing to build back better for when travel becomes allowed again. Which in this case happens gradually, and hopefully now we are on the positive side. So I have put here in as an indication 2021, and of course this date can vary from region to region, from country to country, but by the end of 2021 we started a new period of travel. We started getting a little bit out of COVID, and still not there yet. It's still very present, but travel also has shifted to be seen more as an investment rather than a cost. And this also means that the key focus areas has been redistributed between sustainable travel, duty of care, and purposeful travel. Of course, cost, compliance, and travel experience, those are things that will never disappear, and we should not expect them to disappear, because otherwise we will never have the really sustainable travel programs. So they're still there, but they're not that strong. They don't have that strong focus as they had prior to the pandemic. So during the rethinking phase, as I call it, during the whole stop pandemic period, the key policy elements that a lot of travel buyers and managers and organizations start incorporating into their travel programs shifted from cost-based parameters to elements like health and safety. For the first time, travelers have been empowered to say no to business trips, something that before it was almost impossible to consider. Some companies start rethinking or considering incorporating CO2 and financial budgets together, not only focusing on the financial targets of cost reductions, optimizations, or limitations of their programs. And at the same time, a lot of focus has been shifted to business critical and purposeful travel, not travel for the sake of traveling or travel because we're used to travel, but more, what is the return of investment of your trip? Does it make sense? Is it business critical? Is it purposeful? And with that also comes a lot of focus on making the programs green or greener, let's say, in terms of incorporating more greener transportation options. I guess many of you have heard the famous term that Greta Thunberg used, flu scam, which is pretty much flight shame. A lot of encouragement has came and is here to stay and to try to shift some travel from air to rail or other greener mobility options. And of course, cost and compliance, as I said, is still there. It won't disappear. There will still be financial measurements and KPIs to track that, but that's okay. As I said, it's not the main focus right now. In terms of the KPIs, well, there is a little bit of jungle because there is no one playbook that will fit all. KPIs are very particular to the company. It depends on their targets, it depends on their ambitions, it depends on their type of business, type of travel. And a lot of them have been or are in the process of being reconsidered. Some of the KPIs, the new KPIs that began to be incorporated in the programs are, for example, CO2 per flow mile, or comparison of CO2 total versus CO2 targets if this is something the company is operating with. And of course, the classical policy non-compliance targets will still be there. Sustainable travel now plays a much bigger role compared to before, and companies are discussing different options in terms of approaching this. Offsetting is one of the topics. For other companies, SAF, which is sustainable aviation fuels, as well as to what extent it is acceptable, both from overall perspective, but also financially, for the company to support airlines in the utilization of SAF. Is the company willing to pay for setting their travelers on planes that have partially SAF or run 100% on SAF? And some other considerations regarding this. And here is, again, very huge difference from organizations to organizations, from targets to targets, from involvement into those discussions or not. Definitely one of the, let's say, hot topic that goes pretty much across all or many of the travel buyers that I have been in contact with in Scandinavia in particular, but definitely not only there, is a search for improved CO2 reporting. Data in terms of sustainability is still a huge challenge for the travel managers as such. So if we go to a couple of tips on how to get started with sustainable travel. Here I have listed 5 things that I have been following and that have helped me to start with building a more greener business travel program. I'm sure that there are certainly some other to be added to this list, but I really hope that it could be used as an inspiration for you. As first one, I would like to point education to yourself as travel managers, and education to your stakeholders and your travelers. You see, we as travel managers have both the responsibility but also the obligation to learn as much as we can about sustainability, standards, measurements, certifications, or whatever topic is within the spectrum of sustainability in general and sustainable business travel. It is a fairly new area where a lot of travel buyers and the travel community as such still lacks a lot of knowledge about, but we will get there. So my definitely big advice for you is invest in yourself first, and then share the knowledge that you have with your stakeholders and with your travelers. Because what we're trying to achieve here with building sustainable business travel programs, this is not something that we can do alone. It is a shared effort that has to go across all the levels. Then another thing that has helped me in my considerations about business travel and making the program more sustainable is using a framework to this. Now, I'm sure that there are a couple out there in the market that you can use as a reference. The one that I have used and I have found very well structured and easy to understand was the GSTC 4-pillar based sustainable business travel framework, which pretty much the 4 pillars are people, planet, profit, and management. As I said, it's definitely not the only one, but a one that I have used personally in when drafting, how we can start working and make our program, make this transition to a greener business travel program. And it can help me quite a lot to structure a lot of thoughts, to ask some difficult questions, to understand who potentially my key stakeholders could be. So definitely that has been valuable for me. The second tip that I would give you is understand the macro and micro appetite for sustainable travel. When I refer to macro, I mean country, and when I refer to micro, I refer to organization here. So be sure to investigate, to be curious about your country targets or regional targets or local targets, the investments and the commitments from governmental bodies, from business to greener transformation, and in general, and then in particular towards the travel and business travel sector. Investigate as well what is the cultural readiness on a country level, but equally on a corporate level for adopting sustainable business travel practices, and what are the organizations' sustainability targets, and what is the management buy-in, if you have any. One of the key challenges has been that some organizations have already taken a huge step further and have already defined quite ambitious sustainability targets overall, which of course has been cascaded down to business travel level and to address the whole scope 3 emissions, and of course with stronger management commitment, while other organizations are still struggling to define those or to recognize the importance of having those sustainability targets and then getting the commitment of the management. So investigate that. And make sure that you know where you stand. The third advice that I could give you is to define your approach to sustainable business travel program, whether it should be pull or push. And of course, it very much depends on the other two things that I mentioned before, and especially on number 2. Well, if you have an organization where you have strong management buy-in and a well-defined sustainability targets, which also go down to business travel, then maybe in your organization, the push will be applied, meaning that top management will cascade some targets for sustainable travel down to the organization, into you, and you as travel manager has to, together with, of course, stakeholders and suppliers and the other actors in the value chain, figure out how to reach them. What activities do you need? What tools do you need? What changes you need to make to your program and to the education and influencing of your business traveler behavior in order to reach them. If this is not the case for your organization, maybe pull could be another option, which, you know, in my perspective, pull is always much more difficult than the push, in a sense that it will come from you, meaning from a travel manager that has some knowledge, some understanding, and at the same time is passionate about the topic, which also see a lot of purpose to do this, to drive this transformation and make the travel program greener. So your role will be you to try to drive the sustainable travel agenda and influence your key stakeholders, including the top management. Create this burning platform for them to really prioritize. And this goes back to what I mentioned before. Create this urgency for them to define sustainability targets, to get the management buy-in, and to give you the green light to operate. It again goes back to know your organization, know your limitations, and try to do the best you can. In whatever your case is, I can only recommend do something. Don't be passive. Everything counts right now, and we have to do it urgently. So my first tip will be start small and then grow. In a sense that there are some low-hanging fruits when it comes to initiatives that could help you kickstart the sustainable business travel, the greener business travel thinking. So know your business program very well, know your travelers very well. If you are clueless in terms of initiatives, reach out to somebody you know that has experience, or search the literature, internet. Definitely there is a lot of inspiration out there. Identify the initiatives that are easy to implement or relatively easy to implement, and that can relatively quickly give you some impact. It could be in form of reduction of trips. It could be in form of reduction of CO2, a combination of those. It could be also something that allows you to reduce costs, but at the same time has positive environmental impact. If you have implemented initiatives that both targets cost, CO2 reduction, possibly introducing a more purposeful travel framework for your organization, then you have a triple win. And then the last one, very emotional, I would say, be passionate about it. If you're passionate, you will find the strength, you will find the resources, you will find the right tools to kickstart those conversations, even though they may be quite difficult in your organization if the readiness and the management buy-in is still not at the level that you would like it to be. In terms of your role as travel manager, your role is also in it's also in a transition when you work with sustainable business travel. Here, for illustrative purposes, I try to connect the role of travel manager with the key focus areas with the type of travel program that I have earlier presented for you. So clearly, my impression was that, or is that, before pandemic, when travel has been seen as a cost, where we were so focused on enforcing policies, working with compliance, working with prices, doing everything to save every single penny out of our travel budgets. Travel manager has or had a role of much more as a policy enforcer. We were very much focusing on securing policy compliance, on setting up tools to optimize on cost. We were very much focused on doing very, very good sourcing and strict supplier relationship management. In many organizations, travel manager or travel managers were reporting to either finance or procurement. Very, very classical with more predominance of to procurement, which of course goes directly back to the whole idea that travel has been seen as a cost, and it had to be driven as a cost category or another of the procurement categories in this sense. In this time, process was very often seen as the first pillar. First, we had to have the processes. We had to make sure that the tools that we had, there were some strong activities behind, that we have given the right guidelines to our travelers. Then people were second. It's not that we didn't care about the people or the travelers, but the well-being hasn't been at that level that maybe later on it became. And again, it goes back to, if we wanted to save every single penny, this not necessarily mean that we were catering for, in the best possible way for, every traveler need that may be out there. So sometimes we just had to put or kind of strongly encourage our travelers to do some things that didn't cater much for their well-being. And of course, sustainability, as I said, it was there, but it kind of came last. It was always overshadowed by the process and by the focus on savings. Now, during Corona, in this period where travel managers have started reassessing, preparing to build back better, travel manager was seen as an investigator. The good part is that we became much more subject matter experts and recognized as such. We got strong exposure to the top management. We got a seat into to the table of our main stakeholders on the management level. But at the same time, on more tactical and operational level, we were also crisis mitigators. At the very beginning when Corona hit, I remember very much that from strategic perspective, from all the strategic aspects of my role, I suddenly had to work much more with tracing cancellations of reservations, making sure that I have a good overview of what has been refunded or not refunded and why it is not refunded, why it takes so long to be refunded, communicating all those low-key tactical aspects of the booking, travel, and expense processes. But then at the same time, during this period, we also had the opportunity to be change agents. We were privileged and are still privileged to be seen as rethinkers, challengers, rebuilders. This is where we came with all the good business cases, or at least started preparing all the good business cases, learning, educating ourselves to figure out what we should do, what we should recommend our managers and our travelers to do in the new context, when Corona, of course, allowed us to travel again. And then, of course, in this period, safety and security became top priority. And then policy, including sustainability, became second, because, of course, with the health and security having the first place, sustainability also got a really good place there. it became very clear that we cannot go back to what we knew, to how we did things. That now, apart from the health hazards that Corona made to reduce our travel, we had to do it because we wanted to take care of our environment and Earth. And then, of course, the process came last. Now, in getting a little bit out of Corona, travel manager become much more as an influencer. At least this is how I feel, my role also has evolved, and I hear also from a lot of my peers that this is where we are moving towards. So we are now much more assessing whether we should be the pull creator or the push executor. This is a reference to what I tell you before, when you should decide whether you should go for the push or the pull strategy. We continue being the subject matter expert, and hopefully by us getting the spot on the table of the top management, we will also be seen to be seen as business partner, and will be able to retain this spot. Now we have to think much more the big picture, the holistic picture, be able to go back to the strategic level, and consider all the aspects. So now we also build for people, planet, and profit travel programs, not only for cost reductions and savings and compliance. So now we put people first, sustainability second, and process is last. But when I say that sustainability is second, things are very often going hand in hand. So yeah, definitely consider that. And then lastly, to answer Daniela's question regarding success story or success initiatives, I bring you here an example of my own work with sustainability in my travel program in my company. As I said at the beginning, or as Daniela said at the beginning, I'm working for an insurance company in Denmark. And as such, we have a lot of, let's say, domestic European travel. And in this regard, we have been on quite of a journey, the last couple of years. So if I go back to before pandemic, it was clearly the goal was cost reductions, cost savings. Travel was purely seen as cost. And there we did a lot of things, from changing our policy, optimizing for what we called smarter travel. But again, the main topic was cost reduction. So everything that we did, all the measurements, all the tools that we deployed, all the settings that we put into the tools, all the communication that we gave to travelers, all the choices that we built, it was first and foremost to reduce cost. And then, of course, it was the compliance. And then, of course, there was the encouragement to think green. But again, in the initiatives back then that we gave people in the sense of doing something green, was again, first and foremost, to save money. And then, of course, COVID came, and yeah, it was a period where we had really to reconsider what we do. There was, and still is, quite a lot of uncertainty of the travel volumes, of how our travelers are going to react, of the destinations that they're going to be performed after that. We have seen that virtual meetings and hybrid meetings and work from home is here to stay. People responded absolutely incredible in our company, and we have, I guess, we have proved everybody wrong, in our own company, how it went for us. So definitely an aspect that we need to consider also from, and we need to still cultivate going out of the crisis, that we will still encourage people to rethink how they travel and and still do as less as possible. So this definitely helped us, because it showed that also people that were very resistant to rethink their and change their behavior before the crisis, now it showed them that it is possible. So it will also be even more demanded by our top management. Clearly, our focus when it comes to environmental activities has been to avoid travel, because first of all is this cost reduction. You don't travel, you don't generate costs. Second, you don't travel, you don't generate emissions. And then we've worked a lot on the reduction of our air travel and shift some of those volumes to rail there where it was possible and where it made sense. Of course, this is very much market driven and not equally applicable everywhere, but where it was, we focused quite heavily on it. So pretty much now, going out of the crisis, our focus still is on avoid any unnecessary travel and cultivating this purposeful thinking, this business critical thinking of, do you really need to do the trip? What is the purpose of it? If you have the good arguments, then you should go, no problem. Then if you have to go, how you're going to travel. If you can avoid, for example, taking the plane and going on a train, then go for it. And we have also some other initiatives, but again, it's still very early ages. Until not long ago, we had not to say almost complete ban, but pretty much it was like this. So people were not traveling. So now it's still to be seen. But just to give you a quick figures of what the results could be. Now, as you can imagine, I can't share more detailed numbers because of confidentiality reasons, but just to give you slight indications what those low-hanging fruits can do for you. So yeah, policy encouragement to replace air with rail. You can see we improved 94% by shifting rail bookings versus last year. We reduced a lot the emissions, and we reduced also the cost of the average price tickets. If we move some flights with stopover to be replaced with direct flights, we also had scored positively on all those three things. And the last thing, if you go for business critical travel only, and then we have at least reduced like 25% the total number of trips. And by this, I say thank you very much, and hopefully I have inspired you to rethink your travel program.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much, Albena, for your tips, for your suggestions, for your experience you have shared with us, and also for having talked about passion, to the passion which is something I always feel is something that unites all travel managers. And also the suggestion of being influencers. So starting from today, I think we can all of us be the influencer in our companies, because as I said at the beginning, we, the travel managers, they can be the proactive person inside the companies to start with the change. But now, Dominic, you are still with us, yes? Okay, I would like to listen from Dominic, to listen from his voice. So something about his experience. Would you be so kind to share with us your expertise in the progress of aviation sustainable choices? Your opinion about the variability and how to measure and offset emissions. Also, you are the president of the Swiss Associations of Business Travel Management, so also your experience and the path and the way you support your members in this path. Thank you.
Of course. So I'll say a few things before I get going on the topic, my DNA is travel. Why do I say this? Wanted to become a flight attendant in 1968 and went to the test at Swissair, and she got accepted, but they told her her English isn't good enough. She would have to go to England for 6 months and work as an au pair. And so she went, but she met a guy who turned out to be my father, and she never went back to the airline. But the reason for her to go resulted in me 20 years later going to, and also as the minute I was born, I was packed on a plane from London to Switzerland to go and be presented to grandparents. So I've been traveling all my life, and I think it's the most fantastic thing that we can do, be it for business, be it private. It's very, very important. And it has to stay that way, but it has to stay in a way where we still have air to breathe at the end of the day. Otherwise, it's not going to work. I'll say something else. When I started my apprenticeship at Swissair, 1989, one of the first things that was presented that year was basically they called it an ecological balance sheet. They made a booklet that they added to the annual report, saying this was saved, this was used, this was recycled. Up to date, 30 years old, tools ever to be presented in this industry by today's standards. So one of the next big topics while working at the airline was, and that's also 25 years ago maybe, short-haul flights should be replaced by trains. Switzerland has always had a fantastic train network. Switzerland has always been very train focused. So the idea was around to make sure that instead of having feeder flights from Munich to Zurich or from Stuttgart to Zurich or from other very short destinations, that should be changed to trains. Well, fast forward 30 years, we're still at the same discussion points. The flights from Stuttgart to Zurich fly under normal conditions 4 times a day, I think, and so on and so forth. Domestic travel in Germany is busy under normal circumstances, even though they have a fantastic high-speed network, train network. I'm not looking at you. They happen maybe late at night after a business meal when you're having maybe a quick last nightcap in the bar. All of a sudden, something happens that wouldn't happen in such a meeting here. If we want to continue this way, we have to change dramatically how we conduct our business travel. So as an association, we do 4 conferences every year, and we have dedicated one of these conferences, and that's what you see on the slide, to fully focus on sustainable travel. And it was a massive success last year. When we launched it, we decided to go on and do actually, that's not what you see on the slide, is it? You see the train on the slide, don't you? Is that correct? Yeah, well, so then don't move to the next slide. No, go back, leave the train. My first conference, right? Never mind. So we produce an annual sustainability for business travel conference. Massive success last year. We're going to. We see in my work as a consultant, I've been seeing it more and more that for certain number of hours door to door, 6 hours door to door, train travel is being made mandatory across Europe, which is something I think is a very good move forward, very encouraging. I'm also absolute train fan, and I travel whenever possible. I travel by train. I also flew to Berlin now. I couldn't make it by train because the connections are a bit complicated. But last week, when we went to the meeting in Brussels that Patrick was talking about, I went by train, and it's fantastic. You get up early in the morning, you get to Brussels, you've already worked a full day, and then you can start working again. I really like that way of moving around. And I'm very inspired by the amount of money that the European Union wants to be investing into the rail network across Europe over the next couple of years. I think that's going to be a very important part of reaching their net zero targets. And for all of us, it's going to be a very important part. So I hope you see the beautiful machine on the slide. Here we are, the beautiful machine. Now, what does this very intelligent machine do? It was developed at the Polytechnical High School in Zurich, and it's now operated by a company called Climeworks. Climeworks is a company that's been heavily invested into by Bill Gates and Microsoft, because Microsoft's plan is not only to become climate neutral. What they want to do is they want to go back, and they've calculated, God knows how, but they appear to have good software and lots of computers. They've calculated how much CO2 they have produced since day one of Microsoft, when they kicked off 50 years ago. And their commitment is to get rid of that, to get that out of the atmosphere. And how they're doing a number of initiatives, but this one is a spectacular one, because I love technology, and I think we need to believe in science, we need to believe in technology, and these guys, clever brains, they save us from high water or no oxygen. These guys with this machine, and this is a prototype that's sitting somewhere in Iceland, they suck the CO2 out of the air, filter it out of the air, and bury it back in the ground where it came from originally as a fossil fuel. So this is like the back to the future of fossil fuels. They get sucked out of the air and they get put right back where they came from. And this is a fantastic project, and I hope we'll see a lot of those machines in operation very, very soon. And another one that I like very much, and you can go to the next slide for that. This is a little lab at the University of Zurich as well. And these are, and this is stick, and it comes with a press release, news announcement this morning by the Lufthansa Group. These guys, they make synthetic fuel that they produce out of dirt in the air and sunlight, and then through some kind of very intelligent system, they can turn it into fuel that can be used for cars, for trucks, and for planes. But because they take it out of the air and then put it back into the air, and then take it out of the air again and put it back into the air, they're not producing more dirt. They're just reusing the same level. So if we have two of these machines in combination, one is taking the pollution out of the air and locking it away in the ground, and the other one is taking sunlight and pollution and turning it into fuel that can be reused over and over again. I think that's already a massive, massive way forward. And in future, to not make our environment any worse, but still be able to fly as much as we love to fly, because I think all of us here in the session, we all love to fly. There's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. We all love to travel. We all love to fly. So I'm going to continue with my mission in bringing sustainability into business travel, even more so in a very tangible way, by doing this. At every conference, there's going to be at least one slot, and one conference a year is going to be fully dedicated into sustainable business travel. And you were talking about measurements and how to do this. I don't know how to do this, but I know a really good guy who knows how to do this. And he was also speaking here in Berlin at a session. He's a guy called Mark Corbett. and he will be speaking at one of my next sessions. And what they do is they design plans to analyze, make measurable, and then implement all the tracking tools necessary for any type of company, and to bring them onto a more CO2-free business travel plan. So if you want to speak to an expert, any of you, you speak to my friend Mark. His company is called Thrust Carbon, and he's a highly recommendable guy to talk to. So these are the things that we're doing for now in Switzerland, and I hope some of them sounded interesting. I love crazy machines, so that's why I showed you some crazy machines. I hope there's going to be a lot more crazy machines, other crazy machines that will be going around cleaning up the mess out of the seas and oceans. I like these kind of things. So that's my message for you today. Lots of crazy machines, please.
Well, thank you so much, Dominic. I'm sorry, maybe we missed the first part of your interesting speech, but well, the end was so interesting that we recovered. So thank you for the technologies, the novel technologies you shared with us, for the information, and for the contacts also you suggested us for our path towards the sustainability. And well, I would like to say thank you to all of you, to the guests and to the audience. I wish to our guests a safe and healthy trip back home, because I know they are traveling. And to the audience, I wish an exciting journey to build a more sustainable business travel. Thanks to all of you for your attention, and have a nice night. Good night. Bye.
Grazie mille.
Grazie. Grazie.
Arrivederci.